Hello and welcome to GPTV on Tuesday the 26th of March. My name is Philip Kingston.
And I'm Gary Peer.
And I'm going to be struggling right throughout today's program because I've lost my voice, Gary.
Really?
At least it sounds quite husky and really quite sexy, I don't mind saying to the viewers. But it was a big weekend in Melbourne real estate, another super weekend, another weekend with in excess of 1,000 auctions. We played our role, Gary. We had 13 auctions sold, 11 out of 13, and as a result of that, Gary,
yes,
I'm feeling a little bit
hoarse.
A little bit hoarse.
A little bit of a horsey.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, you losing your voice is one thing, but you not being able to talk is a beautiful thing. So we live in hope that
I can still talk. Don't
the
worry
next
about
few
that.
days. But 11 of 13, Phil, is an 85% clearance against an industry rate of
67/68%. So once again, the team at Gary Peer and Associates have smashed the market average, as we are inclined to do. And at an 85% score for the weekend, Gary, that bears no resemblance to any result we ever got at school.
Definitely far from it. Although the numbers are similar, because I got a 58%. That was my best mark once. So if you turn the 8 and 5 around,
yeah, good point.
That was pretty good. But that was an outstanding weekend. Would it be, you think, the strongest weekend we've seen this year in real estate?
There is no question, because the sheer volume in the marketplace,
Yep.
it wasn't necessarily our biggest weekend in terms
Not in
of
numbers,
volume,
but in terms of strength
in
and
terms
potency,
of,
Philip.
Potency, Gary, potency. That's a good word to be
good,
using
isn't
on GPTV.
I like that one.
No, it was a great weekend and really pleasing to see so many of our auctions not only just sold under the hammer, but also with multiple bidders. And I think that's a real sign of the market.
Yes.
And we've talked about before on GPTV about market depth.
Yes.
And once again, for the viewers to understand what market depth is, it's not just whether we sell a property or not. It's a matter of how many people did we have bidding at or above the reserve. And across the weekend we had...
Who says that's what market depth is?
Well, this is, just so everybody knows, I coined this phrase.
That's your market depth.
You won't see it in the dictionary.
Because no one
no other
else
agent
says
knows
that.
about market depth, but we are cutting edge on GPTV, and market depth is a new term. So when you're at a dinner party, viewers, talk about market depth and understand that it's coined by me, actually.
And what if it's wrong, actually?
It can't be wrong,
Okay,
because no one else knows about it.
Let's get down to some facts of what happened on the weekend, Phil, because it was a really busy one. And you have lost your voice with good reason, because your last auction went on and on forever. I think I went out for dinner and came back and it was still going on Sunday night. But let's just talk a little bit about what happened. Firstly, on Saturday morning.
Firstly, I'm going to cut in on you here because we haven't said where we are today. We are a magnificent, virtually brand new...
We're going to talk about this now, are we?
Yeah, we are. Well, I'm just
going to take me right off the track.
I'm going to introduce where we are. We're at number 2 Royal Parade in the heart of Caulfield South.
A regal address,
A
Philip.
Brilliant street that runs off Glen Huntly Road, but we will talk more about that in a few moments. But I just want to positionally set everybody, because there might have been confusion as to where we were.
Let's talk about Saturday morning. 2 Fuller Street was the first auction we had, which we thought we'd get around that 9 to 990. The reserve was kind of in that sort of top of the range area, but we sold it for a lot more. It's undisclosed, but it sold, I don't think the vendors would mind me saying, well in excess of $1 million. So that was a very, very good result.
Closer to $1.1 million, Gary, without being too specific.
No, but you're getting more specific, which means that, you know, it's not as undisclosed as it could have been.
No, we do like to boast. Competitive bidding there, and interestingly, we talked about Scott Street.
Yes.
But the underbidder from Scott Street from, I think, 3 or 4 weeks ago came and bought this house in Fuller Street.
We move them around, Philip, as we do strategically, brilliantly.
That's what we do in our company, and
we
it's
do.
a real advantage to you as potential sellers. That's how we operate.
Okay, let's talk also about how we operate in Bialaba Road, Phil, because we sold yet again another property, Bialaba Road, this time number 31 Bialaba Road, Phil, and that price is not undisclosed.
Exciting sale for me, Gary, because we 2 weeks prior had sold a house almost diagonally opposite, where we had a reserve of $1,050,000, sold that one for $1,270,000. So nice to roll on, virtually diagonally opposite. We had this house where we were expecting somewhere around the 1.4-ish range, but strong interest took us all the way there to $1,530,000. And that's a really good show of the strength of South Caulfield at the moment, because you know, to sell that in excess of $1.5 million is a really good sale. But having said that, what a great house.
It's all happening. That you know, Caulfield South probably was a little bit sleepy last year in terms of some of the interest that was being shown out there, but really well and truly back in town.
Well, those two sales, both in Bialaba Road, really, I think, are setting
firmed up the market, hasn't it? A couple of other auctions that we had, Philip, one of those was in Narrong Road. It's undisclosed, but I know we had lots of buyers for that particular property, and I know Jeremy Roses did a great job in selling that. Then in the afternoon, there was another property that was undisclosed, but you were involved in the sale of it in Malvern Grove, if I'm not mistaken.
Malvern Grove, yep, absolutely. Top end of Malvern Grove, great spot just between Dandenong Road and Inkerman, near Caulfield Park. Really, really gorgeous spot.
Love that little pocket.
Double-fronted Victorian house with scope for improvement. Sold to a young couple there, whilst the price is undisclosed, pretty fair price. I would like to just talk about this whole undisclosed thing and kind of on behalf of the industry apologise to people that are watching GPTV and the general marketplace, because as agents we hate this whole undisclosed, because we have a public auction. Sometimes there's hundreds of people at the auction, but then the buyer or the seller turn around and say, we would like the price undisclosed.
We don't want anyone to know how much we made or spent or cost or
so it's
received
not
whatever it is.
It's generally speaking, not the agents that want to undisclose, but we do respect the privacy, even though it was a public auction. But certainly sometimes it's a bit frustrating where you might have 200 people at an auction that will go home and tell 5 or 10 people, so within hours 1,000 people know what the sale price is, but we have to report it as undisclosed. So
which sometimes,
it's got nothing to do with us.
We've just got to shut up. Sometimes
that's the case. Let's talk about Sunday, Gary, another big day. My first auction on Sunday morning where my voice was really struggling. It was at 10:30 in Allison Road in Elston, which is a top street, and the street that you used to live in, Gary.
For many
although
years.
you were living in the poorer part of Allison Road, not the salubrious part.
I wasn't in the Paris end, I was more in the Sarajevo end in wartime,
You were, Gary.
That's right.
But having said that, this was a really beautiful, newish Metricon home near the Halston Street Park. Once again, unfortunately, price undisclosed, but we did pass that in at auction, negotiated very quickly afterwards, and got a price that was satisfactory to the vendors and satisfactory to the purchasers. So we closed the sale post-auction.
And a very, very good result, Philip. Almond Street is not undisclosed.
Before we talk about Almond Street, Gary, I want to talk about this bottle of water, which the vendors have really turned on a lovely morning tea. And
relevance of this to our viewers would be...
Now, this is a pet hate of mine, and I say this with due respect to the owners, because they're really lovely people. But this is a bottle of mineral water, and it's actually quite an interesting glass. This mineral water, and we're living in, keep in mind we're in Australia, with the best air and the best soils and the best water, the most unpolluted country on the planet. And this is a bottle of water that we have drinking, and it's water from Norway. Now, I've got to tell you, how ridiculous, people, watchers of GPTV, are we? It's ridiculous that we drink imported mineral water.
I like it.
I would urge you all to get rid of
you got no class,
Voss
that's the problem.
mineral water from Norway. What's that? With San Pellegrino mineral water.
I love San Pel.
You might love it, Gary, but it's
and Perrier.
So if you're interested,
in
stopping global warming, start drinking Australian mineral water, because it's just as good as the snobbish imported European waters, which are probably polluted by the fallout from the nuclear reactor in
Russia somewhere.
In Russia, where was it? The terrible.
I don't know, Chernobyl or something.
Chernobyl. Give up your Chernobyl, Norway water.
You know what? I think they just got the bottle once, and that's the water's just been changed.
Just because you do that at your place doesn't mean our.
We'll put a bit of fizz in it as well.
Anyway, thank you very much for this great morning tea. But Australian mineral water, please drink it. It's great.
Are you off next week? You need to be off next week. Can we talk about Sunday now? Because we started with Allison Road. While you were there, I was doing an auction at Almond Street. That was a very competitive auction.
Went really well, I hear.
Went really well.
I hear you did a good job there too.
I did an okay job, don't mind saying myself, Philip. But that one sold for $7.45. It had two very strong bidders.
That was not undisclosed, was it?
It's not undisclosed. That's why I'm more professional than to say a figure that would be undisclosed, Philip. And that was a very, very popular property, and it had never been sold before. The people had bought it off the plans, and a great unit.
Wow.
So unfortunately, vendor elderly needed to move out of there, otherwise it would never have been sold, Philip.
There you go.
Another unit that I sold, Philip, another one of two, single level. This one at the rear was at 2 at 7 Newland Street. That was really pumping.
Oh, you did a good job there too, Gary.
I did okay.
You were on fire on Sunday.
I was hot, man. That was Sunday. No, that was really good. It sold for $835,000, I think it was. Very competitive, 5 or 6 bidders. Bidders coming from everywhere, Phil. It was all happening there in Newland Street. Then, after that, I went to Hawthorne Road, sold a property there. That went well, $616,000. A very, very nice apartment, Philip, owned by, as you mentioned, that lovely fellow, a landscape gardener.
Tim from Colombo Design.
Give him a rap because he's a very nice guy and he's good at his work, isn't he?
He is,
yeah,
absolutely.
So that was very, very interesting. Had a lot of buyers there as well, very competitive, and sold under the hammer, Philip, with a reserve just around that 600 mark, which was kind of where the quote was up to. Then I went to the auction of the year, I would say. Have to be auction of the year. Let's talk about that phenomenal result.
Number 13 Findon Avenue, Gary.
Yes.
Brilliant house, brilliant street, brilliant location, beautiful renovation, owned by 2 lovely people.
Yeah.
Now, this was incredible. This was a campaign where we thought there would be interest somewhere in the mid, maybe high 2s.
Yes.
We had a good offer during the campaign, an offer that we had to think about. We arrived on the day of the auction. The vendor said, look, I'd really love to get $2.9 million. But he kind of smiled when he said it, which means the reserve might have come down if necessary.
Probably would have. Substantially.
We just didn't have an opportunity because it flew out of the blocks. First opening bid was
from a buyer's advocate,
$2.7 million, and it just flew all the way to $3,410,000, which is $510,000 over the vendor's happy price.
It's like two sales, like another property.
Well, it's like winning Tats Lotto, Gary. So congratulations to the,
couldn't happen
the sellers,
for a nicer
but
guy.
also congratulations to the buyers because you know, whilst they've paid a price that seems strong, ultimately that's what you've got to pay sometimes to get a brilliant house in the top street.
Well, you did a damn fine auction there, Phil, and there was something like 5 bidders, and it really went off. And what an exciting result!
I actually don't mind saying I did do a good job there.
Yeah, you did. I think you can take the accolades for that one.
Just for the record.
But it was just outstanding. And it just goes to show that there are buyers out there right across the board. The top end of the market has been a little bit soft in 2012, I should say.
2013 now.
Just getting the year right. No, it was a bit soft last year, 2012. Still getting used to it being 2013. But it started off well this year. There's been already a number of top-end sales being made around the place. So buyers are ready to move, Phil. They think the time is right.
They are, Gary, but you are starting to ramble, and we've talked about this house today. Let's talk very briefly about this wonderful house at 2 Royal Parade in Caulfield South. This is the most magnificent house. This is what I call a turnkey solution to your housing needs because everything has been done from start to finish. There's not a cent to spend. They've done it so brilliantly well. Come and have a look at this property.
The Huntley Road just over there.
Click online, bring your checkbook to this auction because it is a beauty. Thanks again for watching GPTV. My name is Philip Kingston. We'll see you next week.
I'm Gary Peer. Have a great Easter break. Cheers.